This is part 1 of our video on vector addition and subtraction. So what we're going to be talking about today is how do I take two vectors and add them together or subtract them if I need to. So when I'm doing vector addition, we always line our vectors up from head to tail. So it says here to add vectors, line them up from head to tail. And then the sum of our vectors is what you get when you start at the beginning of the first vector and you end at the end of that second vector. So it's basically from the tail of the first vector to the head of the last vector. So I'm going to say the tail of the first vector to the head of the last vector. And that has a name. It is called the resultant vector because it's the result. So we're going to try doing an example of that with some vectors that we draw as lines, and then we'll try it doing some notation, and then we'll try actually doing it with some numbers. So down below here, I have vector A and I have vector B. And I want to add those two vectors together. So when we do it a little bit later on, we're going to be a lot more careful about angles and things like that. But to be honest, we're just going to try to do our best when we're drawing this. I'm going to start with vector A. I'm going to measure it just to see how long it is. It's like 3.7 centimeters. I'm going to do my best to try to keep it on the same angle, and I'm going to redraw it over here somewhere. I'm going to draw, I think it was 3.7. I'm going to try to keep roughly the same angle that it was on. That is vector A. And to vector A, I'm going to add on vector B. So vector B is going to start where vector A ends, right? So it's kind of like one continuous path. So when I'm adding vectors together, I follow A, and then it's going to lead me into B, and then I will follow B. So vector B is just over 2 centimeters, and it seems to be pointing directly to the left. So starting at the head here, I'm going to draw another vector that is heading to the left that is the approximate length of B. Okay, so it should be one continuous pathway. It's like being on like a people mover at the airport. You're going to get on, it's going to take you all the way here, and then you're going to end up going all the way here. So you're just following the arrows on your path. So my resultant vector, or the sum of A and B, is going to be basically the shortcut from where we started to where we finished. So it's just kind of like a shortcut to get from that start to the end. So that's going to be here, from the beginning of A to the end of B. So that is my resultant vector, and it is the vector A plus vector B. That's how we add them together. So we are going to do the next part. It says state the resultant vector for each of the following. So this one does not require drawing a picture, but we are going to draw a picture to help us understand a little bit as we go along. So I have vector AB. We're adding to that BC, and then we're adding to that CD. So I am just going to draw a random vector. I'm not even going to use my ruler. So I'm going to just draw a vector. I'm going to call this AB. So AB means it starts at A and it ended at B. And then to that, we're going to add the next vector. So this vector ended at B, so the next part has to start at B in order for us to be able to continue. So I would go from B to some random point C. And then our last vector needs to connect with C. So I finished on C. The next one starts at C and then heads to, say, point D. Right? We go from A to B, B to C, and then C to D. And then our final resultant vector is going to go from where we started at A to where we finished at D. So AB plus BC plus CD is the resultant vector AD. We started at A, we ended at D. So this is just going to equal the vector AD. So you'll notice when I was looking at the original question, we started at A, we ended at D. But what's really important is in order for this to work, the vectors that connect have to have the same letters. They have to start and end with the same letter. So here I had to have B and B. And then here I have to have C and C in order to make that work. All right, let's take a look at the next one. This one is AL plus PZ plus QA plus ZQ. So when I look at this one, I notice it doesn't line up as nicely as this one. We went from A to B, and then B to C, and then C to D. Here we're A to L, but then the next one doesn't start with an L, it starts with a P. So I don't think these vectors currently line up. So what we need to do is reorder them so that they do. So my little trick for this is to look and see if you can find any letters that only show up once. Okay, so I've got A. There are two A's because I see there's another A here. I have an L. Ooh, that's the only one. Okay, so there's one of the single letters. I have a P. I don't see another P. I've got a Z and a Z. I've got a Q and a Q, and then we already said the A's matched up. So I always look to see if I can find letters that there's only one of. So I'm going to start with the vector that has one of those unique letters. So I have A, L, and PZ. L is at the end of the vector. I want one at the start of the vector. So I'm going to start with PZ. And then PZ, the Z needs to pair up with ZQ so that I'm starting with the letter I just ended with. And then from Q, we would do QA. And then AL. Now I could draw this out the way I drew out the last one, but I'm starting at P. We're going from P to Z, and then from Z to Q, and then from Q to A, and then from A to L. So we started at P and we ended at L. So the resultant here is just going to be the vector P, L. If you want to draw it out, you can. But I find it easier just to look at, get them in order, right? Look for the two unique letters, and then that way we can find our resultant without having to draw it all out. Okay, I will see you in the next video to learn how to add vectors by drawing diagrams.